The number one question I'm always asked is a $100 or $200 gaming PC even possible? And honestly, the answer is no. Just save up a bit more money and buy some used components. And sure, you can buy an office PC like a Dell Optiplex, put a GPU in it, throw in an SSD and call it a day, but that's boring. And you don't want to play on some office PC from 10 years ago. It's stinky. So is it possible in 2022 to buy a gaming PC brand new for $100 to $200? Against my best wishes, I went out and tried to find the cheapest brand new PC I could for $100 to $200. And it's a doozy. This mini PC was purchased from Amazon brand new for only $130. It is the cheapest configuration from Beelink, who manufactures these mini PCs in a multitude of configurations. The box came with an AC power plug and 2 HDMI cables, a normal sized cable, and a literal tiny one. I guess many people who are using a PC this small would be using it in a place where a small cable would be beneficial, like a mall kiosk or something. It also came with a bracket used for mounting, so you could easily mount this to the back of a monitor's VESA mount and have a really clean setup. The I/O was not too bad on the device. The front featured 2 USB 3.0 ports, along with a standard headphone jack, and the back features 2 HDMI ports, Ethernet, 2 more USB 3.0 ports, and the power port. This config comes equipped with an 11th gen quad-core N5095, 8 gigs of DDR4 RAM, 256 gigs of SSD storage, and built-in Wi-Fi, all within a PC that is just a little bit bigger than my mouse. If you were confused by that CPU, don't worry, so was I. This is a Celeron chip from Intel that launched in 2021 that boasts 4 cores and 4 threads. Celeron is the name that Intel uses for their bottom-of-the-barrel chips, lower than Core i3, even lower than Pentium. Celeron chips don't even have a boosting speed. All they have is a burst. What's the difference between burst and boost? CPUs usually have 2 listed speeds, a core clock speed and then a boost speed. Core clock speed is what the CPU is going to be running at idle to save power, wear and tear on the CPU, keeping your PC quiet, etc. But when it's time for your CPU to kick it in gear for a game or other high-powered tasks, your CPU will be running up to that possible speed the entire time. Burst frequency, on the other hand, is not capable of sustaining these large jumps in power over time. It is simply the absolute fastest speed that the CPU is capable of jumping to. To quote an online definition I found, think of a burst as a brief stretch of run during which you run as fast as you can go until you can't anymore. So while the turbo boost can last indefinitely, a burst is a tiny snap of speed, not great for gaming. And while I wish this PC came with 16 gigabytes of RAM, but let's be honest, with a Celeron chip this low, there's not really a chance we'd be able to utilize the entire 16 gigs anyway. I opened this bad boy up to see how it functioned, and it is relatively simple inside. I love that you are able to upgrade the RAM, even if it is just a single SODIMM. And they even provided open space to upgrade with another SSD or 2.5-inch hard drive. The M2 SSD isn't even soldered to the board. Not bad, Beelink. Trying this PC out for the first time, I almost gave up on this entire video. On the first boot, it took literally 10 minutes for the PC to finally get to the Windows splash screen, and another 10 minutes to get through the basic setup and finalize into the Windows desktop. I'm not sure why it sucked so bad, because after I got through initialization and did my settings, the PC ran perfectly when I was downloading all my programs, after I let it warm up a bit, you know. The included Wi-Fi chip has Wi-Fi 5, so while it isn't Wi-Fi 6, I was still able to get an impressive 300 down and 250 up. And for the remainder of this testing, I'll be using exclusively Wi-Fi and not wired Ethernet. More on that later. After the initial setup, I was able to use the PC quite easily. Browsing the web, watching 4K videos, and general computing was all pretty smooth. No major hiccups, and as an everyday work PC, I could see this fitting in as an extreme budget option for an office or even work from home setup. To start the gaming test, I wanted to start low with emulation. All of the typical emulators ran perfectly, from Atari all the way to even Nintendo 64. I was able to run everything with practically no dropped frames. Even Burnout Legends on PSP ran at full speed without any issues. I don't think enough people talk about emulation because they are afraid of being sued, but considering you can access tens of thousands of games that will run on hardware this cheap, it should be mentioned that you can have a great time playing older games on almost any hardware. I tried to run Super Smash Bros. Melee on Dolphin emulator through RetroArch, and honestly, it did a lot better than I thought. It worked out of the box well enough, but it did stutter about once every 30 seconds, making gameplay kind of difficult. I think I could have gotten better performance if I lowered my resolution, as I did all these tests in 1080p, but it was promising to see Dolphin at least being playable. Let's move on to some actual PC games. First up, I tried League of Legends, and sure enough, at 1080p 60 FPS, I was able to go through the tutorial. You might experience some dropped frames in a real game as there's more animations on screen, but this was a very promising start. I mean, not that promising considering League of Legends came out 13 years ago, but here we are. Before I continue, I want to remind people that this was not ever advertised as a gaming PC. Beelink does indeed sell some great mini PCs that are designed for gaming, but nowhere on their product page does it mention games for the configuration I purchased. But it was their cheapest brand new device, so I had to buy it. I couldn't even get Valorant running on it. I would boot into the game and get an error saying that it required secure boot due to the anti-cheat, but when I went into the BIOS of the machine, secure boot was enabled. And after trying a few times, I just couldn't get it working. Okay, so the PC failed pretty hard at just playing any game really, but there has to be some kind of gaming capable. As a last-ditch effort, I wanted to try some cloud gaming on it. And again, I am doing all this testing on a 5 GHz home internet connection. For those of you unfamiliar with cloud gaming, essentially all the heavy lifting of running a game is being done on a back-end server somewhere, and you are merely using the internet to stream the output of that to your device. This allows anyone with a decent internet connection to be able to play some really AAA games at high frame rates and high resolutions. Sure, I wouldn't recommend it for Valorant pros who are trying to squeeze out every last frame, but for a casual to medium player, it's actually pretty freaking awesome. Using GeForce Now, which is Nvidia's cloud gaming service, I wanted to give Ghost Runner a try again, and oh my god, look at the difference. This went from a game that was barely playable to something that is gorgeous and runs amazingly with practically no input lag. I had similar results with Cyberpunk 2077. Great resolution, great frame rate, and very little difference from playing on actually expensive hardware. If you want to learn more about cloud gaming, get subscribed. I have a new video coming up that's going to review all of the biggest cloud gaming subscribers. Forza Horizon 5 via Xbox Game Pass ran amazingly as well, with only a small glitch happening about every 1 minute. This might be due to the difference in server architecture or even my Wi-Fi connection, but I wanted to mention it at the very least. Look, if you go into cloud gaming and expect to have a one-to-one comparison to actually owning an expensive gaming rig, you're gonna have a bad time. Is cloud gaming perfect? No. Is it 85% of the way there for only 1 to 5% of the cost? I'd say yes. Cloud gaming is allowing us to play AAA games at high frame rates on a device that is meant to power a baggage check kiosk at the airport. That is absolutely mind-blowing. I'm sure people are already in the comments. But Jason, I live 300 miles away from civilization. I do not have internet or good internet. Sorry man, that sucks. You are SOL. But let me remind you that most cloud gaming providers say you only need a stable 25 megabits per second to achieve 60 FPS at 1080p. And only 45 megabits per second for 4K 60. I checked the average internet speeds for every state, and even if you live in the 50th place state for slowest internet speed, congrats by the way to West Virginia, your internet stinks, but your state still averages faster internet speeds than is required for maximum resolution performance for cloud gaming. And you'll obviously have a better time if you run it with a wired Ethernet connection compared to Wi-Fi like I did here, but I did all of these on my Wi-Fi home connection and the results were pretty spectacular. But we can't give any of the credit of that to this device. We would have seen similar performance on any PC because cloud gaming is mostly based on internet connection. So what can we say about this mini PC? It's small. It's quiet. It's pretty quiet. That's about it. So if you only have a $150 budget and you need a PC now, like right now, and you're okay with cloud gaming, should you buy this PC or a PC like it? Well, what's the alternative? As I mentioned earlier in the video, it would have to be a used office PC. So you could go to eBay and buy this Optiplex with an i5 3470, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 500 gig hard disk drive, throw a $20 SSD in it, and you would have a comparable gaming experience for almost $30 less and just a slightly larger form factor. Or you could even grab a used ThinkPad laptop and have a portable device for the same price. Hell, my laptop even has an 8th gen CPU and a 1080p screen, and it only cost me $150. All of these devices ran cloud gaming just as good, if not better, than the Beelink PC. But with these options, we get way more ports, or portability, and much stronger CPUs. Even using the laptop or the Dell Optiplex outside of gaming was a much more enjoyable experience. I was able to cloud game and watch a 4K video at the same time without any stuttering. The only thing this mini PC does better is that it's small, but I'd say there's rarely a home desk experience that can fit this but cannot fit something like a Dell Optiplex or a ThinkPad laptop. My opinion is that if you have only $150 and you want to start to get into PC gaming, don't bother buying something new like the B-Link. Buy something used and play on cloud gaming. But you need to have an exit strategy. The idea that you spend that $150 on an Optiplex and that's your gaming PC for a few years is not sustainable for most people. You will very quickly outgrow it and there's just no upgrade path. With this budget strategy, you can technically use almost any hardware your family has lying around. Save that $150 and put it towards your future build, and for the meantime, just use your mom's old work laptop. It's in the garage, I promise. And then have an idea of what you're gonna do with the PC you're using now after you buy a new rig. You can resell it, turn it into a home server, or even pass it along to a friend who's also thinking about getting into Windows PCs. With cloud gaming, any PC can be turned into a gaming PC. So don't overthink extreme budget builds and don't buy this thing, okay? Thanks for watching, get subscribed for more.